Okay, are we ready to start? Okay, cool. So who of you wants to touch it? Who of you wants to start working with a platform and developing solutions, building microapps, configuring connectors? Cool. So I'm not going to spend too much time. I want to wrap up what Jay and David Cottingham was talking about a little bit. I want to walk you a little bit about the components, how data flow across the components, how you as developers will touch the components, and how developer workflow look like. And at the end, I'll call on stage my colleague who will walk you through the building or live demo of building the solution, so you understand how it looked like in real. And then we will hand over to Robert, and you will get your hands dirty touching that. So let's start. Okay, so let me walk you through key components. I know David was talking about them, Jay was talking about them. Let me put it into a little bit different perspective. So you know already what system of record is. I'm not going to repeat it again. You know what data integration provider is, where it's a component that enables to connect from a workspace to system of record, pull out the data, write the data back. Data cache, important component where we store the data so we are enabled to identify interesting events to generate notifications. The Microapp Builder, a no-code or low-code developer tool that enables you to create or customize microapps. Now we have microapps. Microapp, you know what it is. We are talking about it. It's a single-purpose targeted microflow or micro application, and it consists of pages and events. Pages are simple forms you can create or customize in a builder, and events is a set of business rules where or when they're met, the event engine generates a notification event. So the event engine is a component running behind the scenes, identifying changes in the data, new records, deleted records, and triggers notifications. Then they are finally consumed in a workspace client or end-user experience. Okay, so we have one special guy here. It's HTTP integration David Cottingham was talking about. So what it is a special flavor of the integration that is generic. It's very similar to API clients. It's built into a platform. So what you can do with it, you can build the solutions for your customers. So you can build new integrations to the systems that support RESTful APIs, because you can configure API calls to pull out the data as well as to write data back. It talks to, or it understands the REST. It can talk to REST. It can consume, or you can configure multiple, or you can leverage multiple auth methods be baked in. You can configure pagination, incremental synchronization, so you not necessarily pull out all the data from a system of record. And you can consume, or it can consume JSON and OData JSON responses from RESTful APIs. So this is something where you can make additional money, because you will be able to build the solutions, build the new integrations based on this HTTP connector. Cool. So now we know about the component. We know about special HTTP integration that rules converge. This is why we are here for. And let me talk a little bit about how the data flow, or how the data will flow across those components I was talking about. So initially, we have system of record, and we have data integration provider. Sorry, it's somehow delayed. So now data are being pulled out from a system of record by data integration provider. We need to store them somewhere. So we have a data cache where we persist the data, and the data are being consumed by the end user at the microapps or notification cards that we will generate for the end users. So end users can interact with them. So the end users can approve expense reports on a card, or the end users can submit a PTO request. So the data from the end user or from client then have to fly back to system of record. So from the end user experience or the client throughout data integration provider, data flies back to system of record. Okay, so we know about the components. We know about how data flow across those components. So now let's have a look at how developers will touch it, how the developer flow will look like. We have system of record, you know about that. Now we have developers. So we have somebody who needs to build a solution for a customer. Now we have our platform. We have our Citrix Cloud Console, where you have to go, find the right tile, click the Manage button, and get to this nice landing page Jay was showing in his live demo. Now, developer has to pick right data integration provider, configure it, and start building a solution. So here, the developer is picking right integration. As I mentioned, we have one special for Converge that you will be using these 2 days. It's HTTP connector or integration. This is how HTTP integration initial configuration screen look like. So you have to fill in base URL, you have to choose auth method, some other things. Depends on the system you need to connect to. Now we have Microapps Builder. We have to configure or create forms, pages, and configure notifications. So this is how Microapps Builder look like. So we have a set of pages there, notifications. This is the page builder. It's easy to understand, drag and drop, no-code tool, where you drag and drop components from left-hand side to middle section, where you have a preview of a page. You have a configuration section on the right-hand side, so you can configure the parameters of a component and their behavior. Now we have to configure event because we want to generate a card for the end users. So initially we have to choose the type of the event. So event engine knows which type of records it has to look at, like new records, updated records, deleted records, and on. Then we have to configure a set of business rules to fine-tune the scope, to add additional conditions, to target the notification to a specific user, etc. And finally, we have to set a permission. So we have to subscribe the users or group of users from Active Directory or other identity provider, so they have access to a Microapp in Workspace client. So we have to enter subscription dialog, choose the right group of users or users, and subscribe them to a Microapp. And then the end user can see the nice feed with the cards generated, microapps that are available to the users. So this is it. Do you have any questions about that? No, cool. So let me call my colleague here. He will walk you through the live demo of how to configure HTTP integration, how to build a microapp, and I'll keep commenting that. Okay, so what you can see here is Citrix Cloud Admin Console, where Peter is finding a right tile, a Microapps tile, clicks the Manage button. That brings him to this nice landing page. He clicks the Manage button, and he needs to add integration. So he clicks Add Integration, and he chooses HTTP integration, which he needs to configure. So first he needs to put a name there. Okay, so we are going to build a Zendesk integration. based on HTTP integration. So the microapp that we will create will talk to Zendesk, and it will be possible to file a Zendesk ticket from a microapp. So Peter put their base URL. Now he needs to configure service authentication. So he chooses OAuth2, puts grant type, token URL, scope, client ID, client secret, and some other important parameters. And now he has to log in with a service account. So service account will be used for pulling out the data from Zendesk. So it happened. He had credentials stored in his vault, so it was very seamless. And now he adds the integration. In the second step, he has to configure data loading. So he has to configure the right endpoint that integration will talk to be able to pull out the data from Zendesk. So he puts the name, he puts endpoint URI. He needs to choose the right method for that, HTTP method. And eventually he needs to set parameters if needed. So he's configuring the pagination type of link and JSON path to next page link parameter. And he tests the service. So yeah, we got HTTP 200 status, so it worked well. We see the data service response, so we see what the endpoint response was. And now he needs to load tables. Load tables calls the endpoint, parses the response, and pre-creates a data structure. HTTP integration is able or understands the nested JSON. So as you can see, it creates 3 tables from certain from 3 levels of nesting. Peter has to set the primary key, so he ticks ID. For the other tables, there are foreign keys already created because it's the result of JSON parsing. So the keys are set. He adds the table, so we have data structures to store the data that endpoint returns back to us. Now we need to configure service action. Service action is, again, API call that will enable us, or that will write back the data to Zendesk. So we are about to configure create ticket API call. So when the end user will fill in the form, hit submit button, that service action will perform API call to Zendesk, sends the data in a payload, and creates a ticket. So Peter put their endpoint URI, request method, and now he needs to put a few parameters. So header parameter to set a content type, and few body parameters, and JSON body for payload. So he had 3 parameters: subject, description, and priority, if I remember correctly. So all of them need to be required. So without them, we would not be able to perform a call and create a ticket. Now he needs to put a JSON body there, which will be part of a call, and he hits add button to add a service action. Cool. So now we have connector created, we have a service action configured, so we are able to pull out the data from Zendesk, as well as we are able to write the data back to Zendesk. Now the next step is to create a microapp. So Peter is creating 2 microapps. One will be for creating a Zendesk ticket. The other one will be, or will have notification event set there. So we will generate a card about the new Zendesk ticket created in Zendesk into the feed. So Peter puts the name to the app, chooses some nice icon. Now he needs to create a page. So he needs to create a form which user will fill in and finally submit to generate or to create a Zendesk ticket. So he chooses page type form. He ticked out the field, so we will not create or fill in the form with the fields. He will do it manually for you to see. So he needs to add 3 input components. So one for subject, the other one for description, and third one for priority. Yeah, he sets the parameters, so he sets that I'm sorry, those fields are required, so the user is not able to submit the form until those fields are filled in. So he is pre-filling currently the drop-down box with the types of priority, so the end user can finally choose from the priorities pre-filled in that drop-down box. So form is already created, or almost. Now we have a button there. The button will serve for submitting the form, and we have to set a button so it calls the action that Peter has configured in HTTP integration. Now we have submit ticket, or he changed the name of button. He needs to choose the service action for that button. So button can call service action, but also button can, for example, serve as go-to page. So when hitting the button, the different page can appear. So Peter has chosen the service action. Now he needs to configure the parameters of that service action. So he chooses for all 3 parameters the values that parameters will be filled with. So he's mapping those parameters to components, and we will set the component values with the service action as a part of API call to Zendesk. Okay, we're done. Now let's create a different or another microapp, a microapp that will have event set there. So as soon as the new ticket appears in Zendesk, notification card will be generated informing the user about new Zendesk ticket. Also, it will provide detail for the ticket. So again, Peter sets the name, sets the icon. Now he will create a page to display the details of the new ticket. So he chooses a page type detail. He chooses the fields that will be displayed there. Okay, and behind the scenes, the detail page was generated with the fields Peter has chosen. Now we need to configure event. So he chooses the record type, or the type of record we will be, or event engine will be looking at, and it's new record. So even the engine will try to identify new records. So every new record that will appear in tickets table that we fill in from Zendesk will generate a card. So now he needs to set a card layout. He needs to put the right information to a card. Oh, something went wrong. So right now he's configuring when the notification engine will run. It will run after integration will synchronize the data from Zendesk. He fills card title as well as card body. And you can see the curly brackets, and those are being used as a placeholders, so we can replace those with the real values from a database, from a cache. And now he said what happens when the user clicks the card. So when the user clicks the card, it will show, or it will go to a page ticket detail and display the ticket detail page in a blade. Cool, so I think we're done. Now, now we need to choose a subscriber from Active Directory to subscribe the user that will be able or allowed to see the microapp. Okay, we're done. Cool. So now Peter will log in to Workspace client.
First, create a ticket in Zendesk.
Create ticket in toto ne. Ne, Microapp, ne. Okay, on the right-hand side, he sees available action, create ticket. The form that he created pops up in a blade. So he fills the form. And submits. The small window you've seen, oh, okay. No, something went wrong. The Murphy's law of live demos.
Double quotes in your payload.
You want me to just put the Slack channel up to distract everybody while you're doing this? Just kidding.
In a service action. Yeah, as we mentioned, it's pre-GA platform, so some problems may occur. Thank you.
I'm sure if it was on purpose.
So let's try it again. Here we go. So now we will prove that a service action worked in Zendesk. So ticket should appear there. Here we are. So that's the ticket we have created in a Microapp or from a Microapp in a Zendesk. Cool. Now let's synchronize the data back from a Zendesk and let's see how the card or notification card will be generated, informing the user about the new ticket. So Peter triggers synchronization process manually by hitting the play button. Okay. Synchronization was successful. So let's see the feed. Yeah, here we are. We have a tickets or the cards about the tickets, new tickets, and we have details. So as soon as Peter clicked on a card, the blade pops up with the ticket details. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I saw that the fields on the notification form said that the fields were optional. Is that just because of defined differently?
I'm sorry.
I saw that the field names on the notification form said that the fields were optional. Was that just because it was defined differently when the two forms were created?
Yes. Okay, so let me hand over to Robert. Thank you.
Out.
Yeah, you're good.
Most of you have, that's better. So it looks like most of you have already got their laptops out. So basically, this is now the start of the hands-on part. So we really want every attendee of this conference to be able to build integrations, to build microapps. And this is now the first opportunity to do that. We have Tom McKelvey over here and myself. We will guide you through this session. We are both software engineers. We are part of the Workspace ecosystem team. So the team that is trying to form an ecosystem, a developer ecosystem for the Citrix Workspace product. As Steve also mentioned earlier, We will be supported by technical mentors, so people from the core engineering and product team who are very experienced with the solution as well. So you can recognize them on the yellow vests that they will be wearing throughout this session. So what will we be doing? We will be basically building an integration of the Jira ticket management system from scratch. So we will be doing this using the HTTP integration that Rado has just spoken about. So we will be using all the key concepts that both David and Rado have introduced. For Jira, we're going to implement 2 use cases. One of the use cases we have roughly just seen, so we will allow the creation of tickets. And the second use case is we will notify Workspace users about new tickets that were assigned to them. So each of you will get to build this individually on their own laptop. So what is needed to do that? So first of all, we are connecting the system of record, Jira in this case. So we've got an instance of Jira set up for everybody here to use. I hope it's big enough to cope with the API calls from all of you, but we'll try. So basically, what we're going to do is we will configure an HTTP integration. We will configure the endpoints that connect to this Jira instance. We will also, again, create the service actions similar to what we've just seen that create tickets on this Jira instance. The endpoints will pull ticket information into the transparent cache. Based on the cache, we are then going to construct microapps. We will configure notifications, and we will configure a page for creating new tickets, similar to what we've just seen. Well, as said, we will be supported by technical mentors. Whenever you have a question, just raise your arm and make yourself known, and we are here to help.